Today on Screen It or Stream It, finally, gratuitous amounts of magnificent destruction in a city that's not New York or LA.
Rampage is rated PG-13 for sequences of violence, action, and destruction, brief language, and crude gestures.
Based on a video game of the same title, Rampage is the story of a primatologist named Davis, played by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and his dear friend, a white gorilla named George.
A weaponized science experiment goes awry, destroying a space station and raining genetic ooze across America.
There's no time for a Ninja Turtles reference.
Okay, then what do you want to call it?
So the ooze contaminates George and 2 other animals, resequencing their genetic codes and making them really big and angry.
Davis does everything he can just to keep George from being put down, and that's when the government shows up to help keep him contained.
Things go horribly wrong for the public when the villainous duo that created the experiment will stop at nothing to get their hands on the results of their research.
Insane amounts of demolition follow as everyone tries to put a stop to the death and destruction.
So, what did we think about this one?
We all agreed Rampage is pretty good.
Pretty good and a lot of fun. Oh my gosh. I mean, this movie, you knew exactly what to expect going in, and they delivered on what you expected. There were lots of explosions and just lots of explosions. It was great.
Oh, there was some explosions.
And
don't forget those.
There also an explosion or 2.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
Some
things blew up.
I love The Rock. I love him so much. And it's funny because, you know, Scorpion King, way back in the day, did not like him. I'm like, eh. But then he started doing funny stuff. Like, well, not funny, but kind of funny. Like, lighthearted.
The Rock's power is in his charisma.
He's got some charisma. For serious.
You gotta let him use that, and then it's all good.
Even the movies I've seen recently that I didn't care for, that he's been in, I love him in them. And so, just the fact that he's in it, yeah, I'll chance it just for The Rock. So, keep doing what you're doing, buddy.
I don't think I can think of a recent movie he's been in that I didn't. Well, you didn't like Baywatch.
I didn't like Baywatch.
See, I like Baywatch.
But not that it was bad. It's just not my cup of tea.
Okay. So, I think the burning question that everyone wants answered: best video game movie ever?
It really could be. I gave that some thought. It really could be. I mean, of course, I liked Warcraft, but I'm a Warcraft guy, so I'm jaded on that. I'm not a good judge of that one. But, I mean, there have been several others. In fact, The Rock's been in more than one. He was in Doom, which...
not the best video game ever.
And, of course... what was the other one? Oh, of course, Tomb Raider just came out. That's a video game movie.
That was not The Rock.
And The Rock wasn't in that.
Yeah.
I thought it was, though, for a minute. Like, you know,
Well, she does look... Oh, wait, no.
Just kidding.
So, I don't know. I would easily say this is probably the best video game movie, best movie based on a video game. Let's say that.
Right.
Not the best, because I guess kind of Ready Player One is kind of a video game movie. Jumanji was a video game movie.
Jumanji was so much fun. Also, The Rock.
But if it's based on a video game, like directly from a property, which this is a ridiculous property to make a movie about anyways.
It really is.
But
they made it work.
I would probably say it's the best one ever done, and that's not high praise.
Well, that is true, because the bar
has been lowered.
Is pretty low on those. Some of them have surprisingly high production values, but just as a whole, as a movie experience, most of them just don't. They fall short somewhere, and either it's the story, or it's the actors, or it's, you know, it's always something. But this one is just, it was fun all around. I didn't really have a problem with any of the actors. The effects were great. I mean, what you expect for this sort of thing, and it was just fun.
I was really impressed with the amount of carnage.
Well, so much carnage.
I mean, it's based on the video game Rampage, which is you play big giant monsters destroying a city.
Yep.
And that was Rampage like Nintendo? I mean, it was...
NES.
Yeah, like
Nintendo Entertainment System from the 80s.
And so, you know, bad graphics but it's pretty much just destroy the buildings. And then how are you going to make a movie on this?
Eat the people out of them, yeah.
And so weirdly enough, I kind of I didn't forget that, but that went out, like I wasn't thinking about that when the movie got going. I wasn't thinking about, hey, this doesn't look anything like Rampage because they're not destroying a city. Well, they get to the end and they destroy a city, and they do a really good job of destroying that city. Man, they broke so much stuff.
They did, and in the game too, the army is always coming out and they're shooting stuff at you and trying to blow you up, but it's very ineffective. And well, that played through in the movie too. It just brought back some childhood memories for me, just watching how ineffective they were. But, you know, it was great. It's just great. It was fun. Man, a lot of red shirts died though. Like unnamed character number 800, and they just like stomp, and just cutting them down left and right, which makes her a fun movie. It'd be horrific in real life, but in a movie, it's lots of fun.
Like Rampage is a very good name for this movie.
It's a perfect name for this movie because they literally went on a rampage. Oh my gosh.
For me, so I should have liked this movie more than I did.
Oh.
Like it should have, because it's The Rock, which is awesome.
We like The Rock.
It's a pretty. I mean, it's a disaster movie at its core.
Yeah, but it's a lighthearted disaster, and that makes it fun.
I know, but I mean, it's about big giant monsters, but they're pretty much destroying everything in their path. So instead of being a disaster movie with a tidal wave destroying everything, or a hurricane, or tornadoes, or whatever, it's big giant
critters.
Yeah, but at the same time, it really is a disaster movie. All the stuff's being destroyed. I love disaster movies. I love disaster.
They are fun.
So you throw The Rock in a disaster movie, and it's great. The problem I had, and the reason this was not higher for me, was the campiness. And I don't have a problem with like campy at all. Like I love campy stuff. But my problem was I couldn't. Like, it seemed an uneven level of campiness.
Yes.
There were some really campy things that were fine.
Yeah.
There were some more serious things that were fine. But when you mix those two together, you end up with, like, am I supposed to be watching campy and this is all tongue in cheek? And am I supposed to be laughing at it? Am I supposed to be taking this seriously? And I just didn't feel like it was almost, and it wasn't necessarily from scene to scene, it was from character to character.
Yeah.
Like The Rock, he kind of played a serious, like he was stoic and he was a serious, he wasn't campy.
Yeah.
The scientist lady that ends up being like his partner was not campy. However, the NSA agent,
the federal agent, he never said what agency he was from, some other agency.
But he was a little bit over the top and
was
silly.
A cowboy through and through, just over the top cowboy character, and he was fun. But yeah, it
and then the main villains, especially, so there's two main villains, they're brother and sister, and I didn't feel so much with the sister, a little bit with the sister, but the brother was he was 100% camp. Like they had to camp on,
max camper meter all the way up. She was like the personification of the typical evil villain, just horrible person, and it made her so much fun.
Well, and again, I think that's where I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I was going to, which I guess I shouldn't have gone into this with. I went into it with low expectations that were high. Like I didn't expect a lot out of the movie, but I expected to enjoy the movie greatly because it's The Rock and it's a disaster movie and it's smashing things. And
they smashed a lot of things.
I like to watch that, but I guess my expectations of my enjoyment level were too high. But I just really, really had a problem with I didn't know how to feel, and I didn't understand who this movie was made for, because some of the violence gets kind of graphic.
A little bit, yeah.
And I mean, and it's a lot of violence, and there's the rude hand gestures that are repeatedly. They do come from the gorilla, but they are rude hand gestures, and there's some bad language. Not a lot. It's not prolific, but it's in there. But then, like, the brother villain is so campy. Like he's like a Snidely Whiplash or a Dick Dastardly.
Yes,
he's very
You could see him in a rated G movie as a villain. You really could. And why is he in PG-13? I don't know.
And you kind of want to be like, did they tell him what this movie was? And I don't know. I felt that with several of the and the government agent, the cowboy.
Yeah,
he was full on. Like they had him. He was dressed like a suit, like an FBI agent, but. He should have had on, a cowboy hat that was 12 sizes too big and a giant belt buckle.
Yeah, he had the good old Southern boy drawl.
And the dude did not look like a Southern boy at all. No. Like he walked out, I'm like, oh, it's a guy from New York. And
I've seen him in too many other things. I know he's not from the South. John Winchester, I know.
But again, like those took away from my enjoyment of the movie, but they didn't stop my enjoyment for the movie.
Didn't bother me. I enjoyed it.
I don't think it bothered anybody else. It just is one of those things that it got in my head at some point, and it wouldn't get out. And I think that detracted from me. I also don't understand. Like, there's a giant gorilla.
Yep.
George, and it's The Rock's best friend. Then there's a giant wolf and a giant alligator.
Yes.
And I never understood why the giant wolf and the giant alligator are really giant and the giant gorilla is just kind of giant.
Well, there's reasons.
Well, I know they give reasons, but it just didn't. Thematically, I didn't like it. Like, I didn't like seeing them on the screen.
You wanted the gorilla to be really big.
Yeah, I wanted it to be the same
so.
size, yeah.
Which, yeah, I mean, in the game they were, so what gives, guys? I don't know. Honestly, well, I was more bothered because they called the gorilla an albino.
Oh, God.
And he had blue eyes, which I'm not an expert on genetics, but usually albinos have red eyes, just saying. I thought he was leucistic. End of scientific aside.
And the amount of people who care is...
If I find one, I will let you know.
Let's nitpick the color of the gorilla's eye.
Anyway, the effects were good.
I did think you had to have CGI. I mean,
I don't see how you could have effectively done this without.
There was a couple of like movement issues with the CGI. Like some things just didn't seem to move quite right. But some of the things when they were destroying buildings and they had the buildings falling,
amazing.
They did a really, really good job with that.
One of the things they really got right with that was the dust everywhere. When a building goes down, just smoke and dust everywhere, and it didn't look like fake smoke and dust. That was impressive. Usually, like, you get a cloud of CG dust and it looks like, oh, there's a cloud of CG dust, but it looked good. So
in fact, there was a scene with a helicopter crash, and they went through like a layer of dust, and the helicopter disappears.
It was perfect.
And it
looked great.
Now that you mentioned,
I actually really liked that scene, absurd as it was. Yeah. I liked that. It was good absurd. So
there are some funny moments. Like, it's
quite a few.
It is like I said, it's still a disaster movie, but it's a very lighthearted.
Yeah.
It's a romp. It's a popcorn movie, and there were some good funny moments. And which you see in the trailer, there's the scene where he no laugh, he cry.
Yeah, and then
with the gorilla.
And also in the trailer when he was choking the guy out, that's a big arm. Don't fight it.
Yeah.
Still great.
There was a really good line. Unfortunately, again, I think those were two of the funniest things in the movie for me. I kind of hate when they do that. I know they have to for a trailer, but it's I don't know.
There were so few funny things in this movie. If they hadn't put at least one of those in the trailer, I don't know that you would have got that it's lighthearted.
Yeah,
so,
but the thing with it, and it was a little bit more funny. We saw a movie that did that, but they kicked it up. I can't.
You're talking about It.
Yeah,
I remember because when we reviewed it, you said everything they showed you in the trailer was in the movie, but there was more to it in the movie that made it even more scary than you thought it was in the trailer.
Took it up another level. Yeah. They didn't show you that part of it. Mm-hmm. And I guess that's
one of the scenes there was more to it, but in the other one it kind of was.
But I think that's about the perfect way to do it. You want to get it in the trailer, but you want to
save enough of it that when you see it, it's not, oh, well, I've seen that before.
Because that scene with him chasing,
the joke a little bit.
The gorilla chasing the guy down, and him ended up, crying on the ground. That was just great, and that was really funny. And,
interns. You got to mess with your interns. You got to. You have to.
So the premise of the movie is they have this. It really wasn't ooze. It was
no. It was more of a gaseous thing.
But they have them. They have canisters.
That
they have in a space station at the start, and stuff goes wrong, and the space station crashes and distributes the canisters across the world. But I was really impressed with the space station.
Yeah.
It's not a sci-fi. Wow, it's not really a sci-fi movie.
It would fit in the genre, but only just.
But the movie just it starts on the space station. I remember watching it being kind of they did really the suits look good, the ship looked good, the sciencey stuff. I'm like, man, I've seen some really bad sci-fi movies here recently, and it's like they should have done that.
Yeah, they paid great attention to detail for something that was such a small part of the story.
So and I was highly impressed with that. I was really impressed with the creature design, especially the gorilla. He
looked great.
He looked great, and like you said again, all the fur. We always talk about the fur having to do that. He looked really good. It's not. It's not an Oscar-worthy screenplay. No one's going to be that's super inventive.
Yeah.
It's based on a video game where monsters run around and break buildings, but it's got it's a fairly decent story. I don't think you would be. There's no twists. There's you're not going to be watching this going, ooh, I didn't see that coming. But
no, not really.
It really is a sit down, shut the brain off, grab a bucket of popcorn and watch it. And if you can do that, you're really going to enjoy it. If you like The Rock, I think you will. He does a good job, and it's his vehicle. You know, it's around him.
It's spectacle, and it's a fun spectacle. It's a fun ride. So
it's kind of like the epitome of the big like Hollywood blockbuster. You know, let's just throw a bunch of cash at it and watch all the stuff blow up. But it's fun.
Like when you get a fun action movie that's just a fun action movie.
Yeah,
it's that kind.
It's like one of those.
They're always fun.
And sometimes that does not work out well at all.
That's true.
Perfectly fine here. I'm good with that.
So, I've got nothing else on Rampage that I can think of. All I can pick is nits. So
yeah, and I don't want to pick it apart.
I enjoyed it too much to pick nits.
Yeah, definitely a fun one. I think if you want to see it in theaters,
the big screen definitely is an advantage for this one. Absolutely.
Just the massive size of everything, and I thought they did a really good job with the scale. That's something I wanted to mention because we had talked about with the robots and things before, like you just don't get the scale.
Yeah.
For some reason, in Transformers, they don't get the scale well. But you get the scale here. I thought they did a really good job with that. And the creatures get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger as the movie goes, and you can see them getting bigger. And they get, you see them. I remember thinking several times there's a scene at the end with the alligator, and I didn't realize he was
so
that
big.
Oh my God, look how big he is! Like, I didn't realize it. So I thought they did a good job with that. That really translated well. But that was the other thing. But that's pretty much all I got.
All right. So if you don't want to go see the giant spectacle on the big screen, what do you have for a streaming option?
All right. So I say we stay home and watch the giant spectacle on the small screen. And I'm going with 2015 action adventure, PG-13, all exactly the same, starring a rock. It's a disaster movie. I'm going with San Andreas.
San Andreas.
And this might be like... It is. It's like it's a horrible movie of like tropes and like it is every cliche action movie, disaster movie cliche you can think of thrown into one.
Yeah.
And there was some like terrible like eye rolling moments in this movie, but it's The Rock. It's stuff blowing up. Like it's the same feel, and it's San Andreas coming apart this time instead of it's Earthquake in San Andreas rather than Big Giant Monster, but it's the same deal. It's a Rock coming to save the day, and that's a good thing. And the basic premise of the story is Rock's a helicopter pilot, so he's flying helicopters again, just like in Rampage. And his daughter is trapped in the city. They think they've got everybody evacuated. He's outside the city. Big earthquake comes, and there's tsunamis and all the stuff that goes along with it.
Yeah.
And the daughter's trapped in, and he's got to get in there and save her and a bunch of other people along the way. And he's just the man for the job. And it's a great, like, I honestly, I did not see this in theaters. I looked at it, and then I rolled my eyes, and I went, no. And it came on one of the streaming one day. I'm like, okay. Watched it. Again, it's just not not the greatest screenplay in the world, but a bucket of popcorn and watching stuff blow up, and it's a lot of fun, and I really did enjoy it way too much.
Well, I am going with something of I guess it's a bit of a guilty pleasure one for me because I did forget to look up the year. It was in the mid 2000s ish, somewhere around 2009 to 11, somewhere in there. Battleship. A movie based on a board game this time. Not a great movie by any means, but it had good effects. Stuff blew up, and kind of a disaster movie, more an alien invasion disaster movie. But they promised me three things in the trailer. They promised there would be aliens. They promised there would be Liam Neeson. They promised there would be a battleship. They delivered all three of those things.
Yeah.
I was happy. Everybody else said it was a terrible movie, but I was happy. I got what I wanted. So.
That again, maybe I didn't like it as good as San Andreas or Rampage. But yeah, that just shut the brain off.
Yeah.
And
so the gist of that one, the scientists are sending this signal into deep space so we can contact alien life, and of course one of them warns, if aliens actually do get this signal and come down here, it'd be like when Columbus found the Indians, except we're the Indians. And sure enough, they show up. Of course, upon landing, the aliens themselves have a disaster and accidentally destroy their own communication equipment. So they end up putting up a force field around, I think, some island in Hawaii or somewhere. So it traps a few Navy destroyers inside with them, and the main fleet is outside, which is very important for the plot of this movie. So the few destroyers that are in there go to challenge the aliens, find out what's up, because they don't realize they are aliens, of course, at the time. It goes horribly wrong, and lots of Navy ships get blown up, and it's great. And so basically you've got now the leftover survivors of these ships trying to fight off the aliens. So that pretty much movie takes off from there, and without spoiling anything, there is a battleship, and they have to go use it at some point. So it's
for most of the movies is all right. But I love the end of that movie with the battleship. That was
there
so
is
great.
a moment, and I don't think it's really a spoiler, but there is a moment where they're gonna go get the battleship, and there's a bunch of old salt.
Well, they need the old guys.
The Navy veterans that had operated those ships, and they go ask them for help. And there's that moment that is like the most patriotic thing I've ever seen in my life. It's worth the whole movie just for that. Even if you hate the movie, that moment is so good.
Like if you're at home, like laying in bed watching the movie, you will stand in the bed and like,
yes, it's true. Yeah, it's great. Very few moments in movies give me that. That was one of them. It's just a great moment. Fun movie, awful, but I love it anyway. So, Battleship. That is all our time. Thank you so much for watching Screen It or Stream It.
And remember, don't take your kids to the movies on Tuesday nights because that's when we go.